Okay, I'll now call this
Undo.
special meeting of council for March 23rd, 2026 to order, please. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda with the deleting of items 5 and 7?
5 and 7.
I, Councillor Heisler, move to approve the agenda with the omission of number 5 and number 7.
I, Councillor Mackenzie, second.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Motion carried, thank you. Any disclosures tonight, council? No disclosures. We'll move right on to, we have Jill Stairs here from KPMG to give us a presentation on the 2025 audited financial statements. So Jill, I'll turn the meeting right over to you.
Thank you.
Just give me 1 second. Perhaps you could just,
Yeah, just 1 second
phone there.
so that he can.
She's like, I can't dial.
I can't dial
I'm trying
at
to
the
find his
same
phone
time.
number.
You need his number?
Yeah, after Jared.
Yeah.
Here, I got it somewhere.
9.
Oh, you got it?
It's because we're all watching.
Yes. We're all paying very close attention.
Anyway, I'll send you this. Got it.
Yellow.
Hi, Councillor Dooley. We have already started and we are now on number 4 on the audited financial statements.
Welcome aboard. Can you hear us okay?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, so Jill's gonna start going over our audit.
Okay, so the first one I'm going to go through is Schedule 1, the little set of statements that you were all given. I also gave you kind of a narrative that you can take home that has the financial analysis in case you want to reread it or analyze it. So Schedule 1 is the revenue and expenses compared to budget, the way that you guys operate on a regular basis. So we'll go through this in quite a bit of detail. And then I'll move on to the consolidated financial statements under public sector accounting standards. So this is just for the operating fund. You have an operating fund, a reserve fund, a capital fund, and a capital reserve fund. So this is just for operating. So I just wanted to give you some highlights. So you had an actual deficit for the year of $100, which I'm not really sure how that happened. That's pretty close to break even. You had higher than expected revenues in your tourism levy compared to budget and fire protection services. The rest, and facility rentals, so the community center and hall and whatnot. The rest were pretty much close to budget. Building permits were below, so 2024 you had a record year with 140,000 in building permits, so you had budgeted 136, but the actual, which you really have no control over, came in at almost $88,000. Community events also was a little bit higher than budgeted. Miscellaneous, so that's recreation grants, other things that you bring in that you just kind of, as things come up, you can collect some revenue on. That was higher. Community funding and equalization was a budget amount. The surplus of the second previous year was $2,100. So you ended the year at $4.8 million in revenue. On the expenditure side, it's segmented into general government services, protective, transportation, environmental health, which is solid waste disposal for the most part, environmental development, recreation, and culture, and fiscal services. So you ended up with a $4.8 million in expenses. So I'm going to go into more detail on all those expenditures on the next pages. So the next page, which is page 23 at the bottom, as these go at the end of the statements, is general government services. So this is legislative, all of your remuneration and expenses was budgeted at 181,000, came in at 167. Administrative, so administrative salaries, Other admin services, legal services, office building was budgeted at 723 and was underspent by about 583. Or underspent, so you were at 583,000. So there was some salaries that were budgeted that weren't paid. I think there were some positions that were vacant. Other admin, I don't remember exactly what goes into that category, but it was well managed. Legal had budgeted 65. I think when the budget was determined in the fall of 2024, you thought there would be more activity needed for legal, so you were underspent in there. Financial management and common services, that's auditing fees, accounting fees, civic relations, the cost of assessment, and the regional and collaborative services that's paid over to the Service Commission. Budgeted at 286, you ended up at 287, so pretty much right on budget. And then your liability insurance, grants to organization and other government services, you had budgeted 87 and came in at 80. So you'll notice the public liability insurance, and Terry and I had talked about this last year after the budget had already gone in. Your budget includes fire liability, and we break out fire between general, or public liability between general and fire and recreation. So like the insurance for this building is split between general government services and recreation. So that's why it was over budget. It wasn't that you got a great deal on your insurance, it was just the budget line items weren't split out so much. The next page outlines your protective services. So fire, the cost of running the fire department was a budget of 580. We spent 550, so that was well controlled. And then emergency measures, animal and pest control, and the RSC contributions to public safety, you had budgeted 114, spent 179. So the emergency measures was over. And I can't remember exactly what that was.
That's our fire plan, the
Right.
ESI, so we're gonna get that grant money back. I've gotta apply for it before the March 31st.
Yeah. Transportation services, so your street lights, street signs, your transportation study was 142 and you spent 97,000. Most of the amount under was in the transportation study category. All right, so then the last page in this schedule outlines environmental health services. You had budgeted 517, came in at 493. Most of that variance is due to recycling. Environmental development services, you have budgeted 550, came in at 518. Other community development, that's like beautification and just miscellaneous things. You had budgeted 17 and only spent 2,400. Everything else was close to budget. The tourism, the $50,000, and you spent $32,000. So that's kind of an in and out.
Mm-hmm.
The levy gets put back in, so it's a timing issue. You never really know what you're gonna get and then what you're gonna spend out. Recreation and culture services, community centers and halls. This is a big increase in spending. You had budgeted 20,078 was spent. Community center personnel, it's rec director for the most part. Parks and playgrounds, you were about $50,000 under. Park personnel was pretty much right on. That's usually the recreation students for the day camps and whatnot in the summer. Recreation personnel, contribution to RSC recreation, so that's the cost sharing with the city of Fredericton for using their facilities, and then other recreation activities. Fiscal services, so this is where you outline what you need to pay in principal on your debt, interest on the long-term debt for the various debentures that you have, bank charges, cost of borrowing, so that's any temporary financing that you have that comes in, that's where we put that. The lease had expired and the deficit of the second prior year was in the prior year. Capital expenditures, so you had budgeted $352,000 to spend operating funds on capital investment, and you actually only ended up with $248 because you ended up taking some out of reserve. And then you had budgeted a transfer to your capital reserves of $100,000, and you ended up putting $560,000 in at the end of the year. So what does that all mean? Essentially, it means that you were approximately break even, the budget was balanced, the actuals were balanced with a small deficit. Your property tax is reflecting assessment growth, stable collection. Tourism levy is continuing strong. The fire protection revenue exceeded budget, that's driven by higher billings to other jurisdictions, so if there's a fire service call that you go to, I'm sure Councillor Kraus knows about that, you go to Harvey or you go to Dumfries or something, then you get more money. Building permits, there's reduced development activity in the area, that's really out of your control. And yeah, essentially on the Schedule 2, the drivers behind that, I've outlined on the fiscal analysis. But what saves you, I guess, from being in these big surpluses is the fact that you are able to take your books and records from, you know, up until the end of November and see where you're at and do those reserve transfers at the end of the year to kind of keep you safe, quote unquote. And that also shows good, prudent fiscal management because you're reserving that money for future capital expenditures that you won't have to borrow to purchase things, right? And I'll get into the reserves when we get into the big part of the statements. So I'm going to pause there if there's any detailed questions on the activity in the year because this, like I said, this is basically how you budget and how you operate throughout the year.
I'm good. So far?
So far, so good?
So far, so good?
All right. So now we're going to go into the big set of statements. So this is the one with the audit report on it. So those of you on your computer, it would be the bigger PDF. The audit report, the opinion is what matters the most. So we have audited the consolidated financial statements of the rural community of Panwell, which comprise of the consolidated statement of financial position, the statement of operations and change in accumulated surplus, the statement of change in net financial assets, the consolidated statement of cash flows, and all the notes to the financial statements. So in our opinion, the accompanying financial statements present fairly in all material respects the consolidated financial position of the entity as of December 31st, 2025, and the consolidated results of operations, changes in net financial assets, and consolidated cash flows for the year ended. So all that to say it was a clean audit. We did make several adjustments, but they were all mostly amongst the funds, so trying to, like what was a capital expense versus an operating expense, that kind of stuff. We booked the amortization on the capital assets, that's something that we always do. And other adjustments were, because we got the books and records late January, there were some invoices and whatnot that came in February that were dated for the year before, so we set up some accruals. But overall, the books were in good shape. The first page with numbers on it is a snapshot in time at December 31st, 2025. So you had cash in the bank of $3.2 million, and note 2 outlines that. It doesn't mean that you have $3.2 million to spend on operations. The majority of that is in reserve. It's either the Canada Community Building Fund, or your capital reserve, or your operating reserve. Accounts receivable of $726,000. There was some claims, I think, on some items that just hadn't been spent yet. Federal government and its agencies of $62,000. That's your HST rebate, and your pension asset is at $76,000. The financial liabilities, so what you owe, there was accounts payable and accruals at the end of the year of $136,000. That's generally the amount of expenses in December that you get invoiced in December and you pay for it in January. Sick leave accrual, so you have a policy that accumulates sick days, and so there's an obligation to have that liability. So there's about $78,000. Deferred revenue, that's the Canada Community Building Fund, the gas tax. So you have a little over $2 million in unspent gas tax funding, so money that you've received for gas tax projects, but you have not yet spent. And then long-term debt, so this one really increased to 2.8 million because of the fire truck that you purchased last year. So your net financial assets have gone from an asset of 188,000 to debt of 920. Don't let that concern you. When you're in a building mode and you're acquiring assets and you're paying off debt for those assets, then it flows it into a net debt situation. That just means your current assets less your current liabilities are a little bit over, but you're still in a really super healthy position. So if you look at other municipalities across the province, their net debt is like $6, $7, $8 million. So the majority of it, had you not bought the fire truck this year, you would still be in a positive net assets. But that fire truck, you pay the debenture, I think it's over 15 years, but that fire truck's gonna last you for 30, right? So at least. Non-financial assets, so your tangible capital assets, that's the building, vehicles, parks and trails, recreation equipment, is at 8.6 million. And prepaid expenses is 77. So prepaid mostly is you pay your insurance in July, so there's like a half a year's worth of insurance that we set up to be paid in the next year. The next page is your consolidated statement of operations. So much like the one we went through in Schedule 1, this includes all the operating stuff, but it also includes the Canada Community Building Fund, the gas tax fund, and on the revenue side, as well as interest on all the reserves. And on the expense side, it's all what you had that we went through before, plus amortization on the equipment. So your revenue consolidated for the whole municipality across all of the funds was 5.1 million, and your expenses were 4.6. So you had an annual surplus of about 486,000. So your accumulated surplus at the beginning of the year was 7.3 million, and at the end of the year is 7.8. The next page is the consolidated statement of change in net financial assets. So you take your annual surplus, you acquired $2.3 million in assets, and we amortized 731. You had a change in prepaid expenses, and you sold a couple, it was like a zero-turn lawnmower, a couple little things, for about $2,700 that you got proceeds. So that's why mostly it's the acquisition of the tangible capital assets that have thrown you into that net financial, or your net financial debt at the end of the year. I'm going to skip over the next one. It's all the same numbers, but on a cash basis. And then we go into your significant accounting policies. So we talked about the reporting entity, the budget, when it was approved by council, when it was approved by local government, what you consider cash and cash equivalents, post-employment benefits, revenue recognition, how you amortize your tangible capital assets, what are financial instruments. Skip over that until we get to note number 2, which is the first one with numbers on it. This is your cash note. So remember when I said there was $3.2 million of cash? Only 16,000 of that is operating. You have in your general capital reserve 1.6 million. In your general capital fund, which is your gas tax, you have 1.3. So
did those get changed?
Yeah, so the receivables are so high because there was gas tax money received in the first quarter of 2026 that belonged to 2025.
2024, yeah.
Yeah, 2024 and 2025. Your general operating reserve has about 230,000, and your
That's what I'm wondering.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, they
did get backwards, yeah.
yeah, that's one that I had mentioned. I just caught it again tonight.
Yeah, the gas. No, that's right. So your gas tax bank account was down to 25,000 at the end of the year because you had 700 and some.
No.
Oh, the general capital fund.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. So 1.3 million is CCBF funds and 25,000 is just general capital funds. I shall make that
So those
adjustment.
two backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, those two are backwards. Federal government and its agencies, so you have the HST refund of 62,000 that is coming back at the end of the year. The pension asset note is not my note, it's a huge 2-page note. It comes from the province and from LifeWorks, which is their actuarial. So it's reported basically which part of the New Brunswick pension belongs to the community. So there's about 76,000 that belongs to the community out of the pension. Note number 5 is your tangible capital assets. So this outlines what you purchased in the year. So you invested $950,000 in land in the year. 107 you invested in buildings, mostly upgrades to the fire stations. And then motor vehicles is over $1 million. That's predominantly the fire truck. And then parks and playground, that's rec equipment, any upgrades to trails, that kind of stuff. So you invested $2.3 million in the assets of the community. Sick leave accrual, this just outlines the opening balance, how much was accrued in the year and how much was used in the year to get to the ending balance. Deferred revenue, so the balance at the beginning of the year was 1.5 million, you received 672, or became receivable 672. Interest earned on bank account was about 37,000, and you spent about 266,000 in the year. Long-term debt, so you have 3 debentures. The first one is for the community center. The second one is for the fire station, the Hanwell Fire Station, and then the third one is for the fire truck. Note number 9 just discloses to the province that you are in compliance with all short-term borrowings. Note number 10 outlines the reserve funds and the activity in the reserve funds. So in the general capital reserve for the year, you had an accumulated surplus at the beginning of 1.9. You earned interest of 40,000. You transferred in 460, and you transferred out 785. And then in the general operating reserve, you had an accumulated surplus at the beginning of 127. You earned interest of 3,100, and you transferred in $100,000 at the end of the year. And then the province wishes us to, because you have to have a resolution of council for any movement to and from reserve, so we have to outline all of the motions. All right, so the first note that's on its side is basically segment disclosure. I'm not going to go through it in detail, but it matches the statement of consolidated operations. Again, it's a note that the province requires. The same with the reconciliation of annual surplus. It's how we get from the annual surplus on the statement of operations of $486,000 to the $100,000 or the $100 that we talked about on Schedule 2. So it's all the ins and outs of fund accounting, essentially. Very exciting if you're an accountant, not so exciting if you're not. Note number 13 talks about how we get from the operating budget to the public sector accounting standards budget. So the surplus of second previous year is not actually a thing under public standards, so we back that out. And then all your payments that you had budgeted for long-term debt, interest, interfund transfers, and capital expenditures also all get backed out, and the interest moves from fiscal services up to general government services. And then note number 14 is the detail, much like we went through in Schedule 2, except in each category there's an amortization piece in the revenue and expense support. So again, not going into a whole lot of detail there. And I understand next year there may be in half of the new council, so we'll do a very detailed debrief again next year. I'm assuming you all have heard my spiel. Any questions? lot of numbers at you.
You like that?
I do. But I'm an
Jill, I have a question.
Sure.
From a depreciation standpoint on the fire truck, just why is it 15 years if the usable life of it is 30? Just curious what the ratio is. Like, how do you get to that point? Is it dictated, or is that by choice? Is it
So the 15 years is the length of the debenture. It's not the amortization. So I think the fire truck
okay.
itself, the amortization rate was at 25 years for heavy equipment. So it's being depreciated over 25 years, but you're paying for it over 15.
Gotcha. Sorry,
That's
Right.
fine. You were paying attention.
Yeah.
see, guys, see, it's true. Thanks for that.
No problem.
Yes, you notice how we laughed at him.
That's a good question.
So Jill, we have to do these electronically, and you sent the thing.
I sent the management letter to you, which is management taking responsibility for the financial information. And I will send one to you and Dave to sign for your electronic submission to the province. So you can sign the balance sheet and sign the reserves electronically, and then you and I both will have copies of the signed statements, so I'll do that tonight.
So it'll be after you change this.
Yeah.
So, no questions for Jill?
I don't think so.
Just one from Jared. That's it?
Yeah. He's the
Okay.
troublemaker.
I just made you.
Yeah. Anything else to add, Jill, or clean slate? Okay, on item 4, can I get a motion to approve the audited financial statements, please?
I, Councillor Heisler, move to approve the audited consolidated financial statements as presented by the auditor, Jill Stairs of KPMG LLP, for the year ending December 31st, 2025.
Can I have a seconder, please?
I, Councillor McKenzie, second.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Jared? Jared? Contrary minded?
Councillor Dooley?
You awake?
Jared?
He was just there, but.
Yeah, I said aye.
Okay. Contrary minded? Motion carried, thank you, council. Second motion. Can I get a reader, please?
I, Councillor DeCleva, move that the Royal Community of Hamwell renew the contract with KPMG LLP, previously known as Day Kelly and Associates, to conduct our audit for a 2-year term from 2026 to 2028. This will be reviewed again after the 2028 audited financial statements are received.
Seconder?
Hi, Deputy Mayor Jonah, a second.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded?
Aye.
Motion carried. Thank you,
I guess
guys.
that's if you want to
Well,
work
thank-
with me again.
Yes, of course.
Thank you, Jill. Thanks for coming out on such a damp,
No.
cold night to Hanwell.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
No, always a pleasure. So Terry, I'm actually gonna get you to sign that management rep letter. It's very CPA standards. You've accepted the statements, so I need a signature. So that I can scan it and put it in my audit file for today.
Do you
Dated.
need a stamp on it?
Nope, just your signature. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks, Jill.
All right, moving on, we have the item 6, Community Wildfire Resiliency Plan. So I think we have a little bit of discussion on this one.
Yeah, so, council, I brought it back to you. There was a couple of concerns still. And I'd just like to get those checked. Councillor Heslop and I had talked about some grammatical errors on it. I'm not going to get the consultant to put in commas and periods. When we get it back, we can do that, whatever. No?
Just a comment on that, I wouldn't put it out then to the public until it's changed.
Oh, no, like, that's fine, but,
Because there are words wholly missing.
Yeah.
or whatever. So,
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Jill.
Thank you.
So you don't have to run away, you can stay for the rest of the meeting.
Wildfires don't interest me so much.
Not much in numbers.
Really?
Yeah, thank you, Jen, have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jill.
so on page 10 of the report, the Fire Smart Coordinator, so they're kind of recommending that we have a coordinator position. I brought this plan to our EMO committee. We were kind of making a plan for the future of what we need to do. One of our new members just became certified as a Fire Smart Coordinator, and she said that she would assist us with all of that. It's not something that we need to jump right in and hire somebody right away, but it's something that her and I can be working and getting things in place for the EMO committee, because most of it falls under the EMO committee, so I just wanted to let you know with that. Page 11, there was some concerns, this was mentioned last time, and I totally forgot about asking him to remove this, but I wanted to check to make sure that people did want it removed. So on page 11, number 11, establish a program to enable residents to safely dispose of any trees and brush removed from their property. The program will need to be affordable, easily accessible, with benefits well promoted to encourage residents to take part. I think this is going to be a very expensive thing, and where are we going to do it? Who is going to police it?
Yeah.
So
That in turn just puts us back to getting rid of leaves and all that other, it's just gonna rehash a lot of stuff
Yeah.
yeah,
that
so
we
But
look after.
yeah, we just don't have the
I guess
manpower.
We don't have the
well, I just have one
infrastructure set
question
up.
about what they mean by it. To establish a program, does that mean that the community has to establish a program, or
Yeah.
find someone who's a contractor that the resident would pay themselves and we would just have a person that,
I
Does-
took it as it's
We
a
used to have it.
service that we would be putting on.
Yeah.
is that how you take it? Okay, because see, I would take it another way, in that, you know, we maybe would have someone who's a contractor who we would recommend, and if you wanted to get rid of your leaves or your brush or your whatever, then, you know, they would give you a good price and they would come and do it for you. But if everybody else takes it the other way, I could be wrong too. That's just the way that,
The only thing I would be worried about would be liability reasons with that. So what happens if that contractor ends up doing something? Are they going to come back and go, well, you're the ones that recommended this person kind of thing? Like I
can't imagine. I mean, it's the other thing, if you had a group of people in the community that do the same type of service, you could just post a list, say, you know, there's these people, or these people. I mean, it's up to you guys. I'm not, you know, stuck on either way.
Councillor Heislip?
So on that note, I was wondering if it would be, a program could be established more in terms of developing a list of companies that are out there that people could hire themselves, or
so kind of
if,
Just what I'm just
yeah,
saying.
or with partnering, yes, that's what I was thinking. But also, was there a grant out there that we could use to do this? Because they were talking about funding in order, like more funding coming up. So I was wondering if there would be funding that would enable us to do this. Similar to like maybe something like New Maryland. At a certain time of year, you can pick up all your little twigs, not very big, but, and get them chipped. But I don't know if there's a grant out there or if that's what they were thinking, I'm not sure.
Councillor Leclerc?
Question.
Just a second, I'll get Candace first, then I'll get you, Jared.
I just was thinking, even if, I mean, maybe this is not a good idea, but even if there was just something in there that said to explore options, because I get the idea behind like cleaning up yards and that sort of thing, but I do agree with Councillor Crouse, it's a huge undertaking, and I worry about where it ends, because was somewhere on the weekend in the middle of the woods going to myself, if we had to clean up like every kind of piece of deadfall or thing that was considered like not fire smart, like that's a lot. Like I don't know the criteria and how you say, yep, that's it, or that's not, or that gets covered, and that, you know what I mean? So I think like definitely having something that's recommended to people rather than something that the community takes on could get really big.
Jared first.
Yeah, Councilor McKenzie?
Well, Jared first.
Oh, sorry, Jared. Councilor Dooley?
Just a couple of questions around that. So, is it, you know, is the concern, is there a bigger concern based on the administrative side of offering a cleanup service, or more of like the tonnage, and the cost associated to actually like hauling and discarding of the product?
I think both.
Yeah.
Both? So then, just curious, kind of on top of what Councilor Highfoot said about, you know, funding, and is there any grant money or anything like that? I'm assuming, or I guess I just naturally assume that when you clean up, anytime that I've ever cleaned up my own property, you know, it's not the same amount of work every year, right? There's an initial lump, you know, like you're doing a mass kind of discarding of goods, and then if you do it every year after year after year, eventually you just get to a point where it's relatively simple, kind of more easily, you know, done things, and you don't have as much garbage to actually haul. So if, you know, there's some communities that are already doing, you know, a specific period of time, and there is grant money, like, would there be maybe a summer student hire program that we could capitalize on that might, you know, might subsidize that as a, you know, something that might be more of a grant that might be labor related, that we've already kind of capitalized on in the past, that we might be able to transfer the funds over to this for a temporary period?
Yeah, I don't know.
There's a lot of notes.
I'm not saying that we have to have an answer right now, I'm just bringing it up as a talking point to say, you know, hiring somebody, there's usually funds to hire students,
Yeah.
and summertime seems like a logical time. You know, if it's something that we did, or we're genuinely actually going to execute on, that might be something to consider.
The only thing with that is labor is actually probably the cheapest part of the whole thing. You've got to have a way to
Well,
the
10
equipment to
seconds
get
ago,
it taken
I
away.
think we just heard that it's actually almost equal.
You've got to have a vehicle and a trailer, and you've got to take it somewhere. and
I'm
you've
not disagreeing that it might be the least expensive, but if it's you know, we just heard that, you know, if it's not heavily weighted in one direction or the other, and it's, you know, kind of an equal cost, well then, you know, a simple thing to obtain is summer hire students. That's all. So just a point.
Okay. Councilor McKenzie?
So along that path of that and what's been said here, I actually like the way Candace said it. Would this basically be resolved by just changing the wording of number 11, getting rid of establish a program to just say explore options instead? Explore options to enable resident. That way there's no specific timeline on it. There's nothing saying that we necessarily are on having to do it ourselves. It would just be exploring a way maybe at some point in the future, do some investigation on the grants and so forth like that, to see if there is possibilities to it. It might not be this year, it might take another year to spend some time this year going through the research of it, and then developing a strategy to take it into 2027 type of thing. Would it be that simple to just change those couple words to update it?
It would make sense.
Maybe.
Yeah.
That's what we do at
Yeah.
my job, like,
Yeah.
it's sometimes unreasonable for you to have all the answers, right? But you appreciate that it's important, so you just say, you know, we're gonna look into it, and, you know, maybe it's not gonna happen, but maybe it will.
Councilor Lee?
I just
Councilor
think it's for us to establish a program, like the city of Fredericton has a facility down there that does all of this.
Yeah.
And they have 2 loaders down there,
Down
and
the
they have
landfill site.
machines down there.
Yeah.
That's a big cost.
Oh, it's huge.
I bet you that machine's $1 million, and then you got your loaders, and then you got, so, and we just can't do that.
Well,
Like, we have really nowhere to put it.
But maybe we can
Because
partner with them, right?
Well, it's just a matter of you loading your vehicle and taking it down there, because it's a free service.
We kind of already are partnering with them, comes into
Yeah.
running the landfill, right?
But that's, to me, I just don't see, because it's a lot of policing on our part, And you just, to have a spot, like how big of a spot do you need?
And
Then you gotta get stuff shoved out of the way. So you're gonna call somebody to come in and move that? You're gonna have students go take garbage out of it when somebody hauls garbage into it? So no, to me, no. The city of Fredericton, they have the facilities for it, the proper way to get rid of it. I just don't think it's an avenue for us.
We
People-
could,
Okay, Councillor Heisler.
What if we do as Councillor DeCleva said and put the explore options or ask if they will do that, as well as look at an educational campaign alongside it, so that people know the dangers that exist with keeping that stuff on their property.
Yeah.
and we could look into whether the city would accept our stuff, whether we, we could pay
Yeah.
a fee, same as we do for tipping. We could pay a fee for the tonnage that people bring.
Yeah,
in
you would,
to-
yeah.
yeah. 'Cause we certainly wouldn't be, in a position to build it, do our own thing, get our own machinery and have our own dump and that type of thing.
I think they already operate that down there though, for, not just for the city, for the whole region.
Well, that's, that'd be part of the exploring that we're gonna do.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll just change it to explore options to
Yeah.
enable the residents along with an educational campaign.
Component or-
whatever.
yeah.
Okay, so I will
That would
get
make
them to
sense.
change that.
So we can't motion on that tonight then, right? We have to,
No, I said that we'll just kind of talk about it and then we'll bring it back for adoption at the next
Next meeting.
meeting.
I have another quick question on it. Actually is the one that is going to inspect the properties for the Fire Smart standards?
It's gonna be, would that be the problem?
I've seen that in there, but there was no mention
It
of
says it
who's
in
gonna do
there
it.
that we will, like, be offering that type of thing to inspect properties for
It is.
Fire Smart standards, so,
Again, it was a recommendation, I believe. wasn't it?
yes, and I'm just wondering who or what does that entail?
we'll be on the Regional Service Commission, same as it would for any other building standard, wouldn't
You gotta remember, these guys here are city firefighters. So the city that they work in or for, did work for, they probably do that stuff. Or we won't. We don't, because we don't have any paid staff to do that. Or qualified to even do it.
And this is a plan. This
Yeah.
isn't something that they're telling us that we've got to put in place in the next 2 months kind of thing. It could be 4 years.
True, I just think it's something we need to ask so that we know in the future if that's the way.
If it's required.
Yeah, like, is it gonna be a required
Would it be-
later on down the road?
Would
I
it be us or
don't
would it
know.
be Regional Service Commission, like who would?
Like-
who would be
Can you
What?
imagine the fallout we'd get if we had an inspector go around each property and say, you're not fire smart, you're not fire smart, you're not fire smart? There'd be a lot of pushback on
Not a
that.
regulation.
I think it's going to take a lot of education for quite a few years before we get to that
Yeah, and then
stage.
this might just, maybe they're talking about it just referring to new builds. I don't know, or is that gonna be a component that we need to put within the rural plan?
That is the component I did put in. I don't know if it actually got in, but I sent that off to the consultants
So there are, yeah, okay.
or whatever.
So there are some questions, I guess.
So
around
what page was that on, Councilor Winslow?
I think it was way down in like page 106
Oh,
or something.
Well, don't refer to the bottom.
I'm sorry, but I did read it all.
I did not, sorry.
so,
Page 11.
Right, page 11 has it too.
It's like right at the bottom, it's talking about the fire department principles and, yeah, within planning, zoning, development process, da-da-da-da-da.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just says to encourage, it's not that they're
Yeah.
obligated. So,
okay, so
Let's change it
the
around.
next one, page 19. Ward 4, does anybody know what this actually is? They've got the western section, so Long
Yes.
Street includes Birchwood Estates, back part of Deerwood, industrial to the industrial park to the city limits, but
You're talking about the, like by the
Just
highway.
the description of the wards.
yeah.
Ward 4, I know, that's the one I talked to you about this afternoon.
Read
They
it
don't,
again. Read it.
The western section towards Longs Creek includes Birchwood Estates, back part of Deerwood Drive, industrial to the city limits.
So
they are only,
probably just take out the Longs Creek.
yeah.
well, they don't include, Ward 4 doesn't include Birchwood.
No,
Ward 4,
Ward-
it's the
Ward 4.
wraparounds behind
It
Deerwood.
includes Birchwood.
I'm pretty
It
sure
does? All of it?
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It starts about by the church and then goes into the city.
Yeah, that's where.
Like the
Oh,
Pentecostal
yes.
church.
Oh, that's right, too,
We-
yeah.
we
Yeah, I
went
heard
by
about
that.
the Birchwood, yeah.
Great.
Because we had looked out here, Sherry and I looking at the ward map, and that's how we came up with this description, but.
No, it's correct on Ward 4, but there was another one that
But
seemed
the
to
No,
be.
no,
western
that's not the
section
western
towards-
section towards
I
Longs
think
Creek.
it's supposed to be talking about.
That's not Ward
the
4,
highway.
is it?
No,
No.
yeah, that's what it says, here it is,
Yeah.
but
That's
that's
not
not in Ward
So
4.
I
No.
just need
No.
to, we need to take that out.
Is that being divided by the highway or are they talking
It's-
102?
Well, Longs Creek's way up by wards 5 and 6.
No,
Yeah.
because, 102
Ward 4
is,
goes out
Ward
to
5.
the city limits on the, you go up Mary Ellen Drive, then down Carriage Hill. There's, where the chip seal changes to the pavement is the city limit. That's the extent of Ward 4. Goes out to there, and it comes all the way back to the highway, where the highway crosses Deerwood, the Trans-Canada. So that's that section there that belongs to 4, and then it goes all around, and it goes back out, and it joins Ward 3 and 2, and then goes out towards the city.
Yeah, and it's all the way to the city.
Okay, so I'm just gonna take out the Longs Creek.
Yeah, Long
Yeah,
Creek has
that's
nothing to do
just
with it.
Say Deerwood instead of Longs Creek then?
It does, it
It
says,
does.
it's
Deerwood
Birchwood,
scales.
the back part of Deerwood Drive,
Okay.
industrial to the city limits.
Oh, Birchwood, I was thinking it was Brookdale.
Oh, yeah,
Because
that
it
makes more
doesn't,
sense.
the description of Ward 3 doesn't even mention, it doesn't mention Brookdale, I think.
Yeah,
It does say now, because it calls them Southern Hanwell.
Oh, no,
Yeah, but what's the description for Ward 3? I think that was screwed.
Includes Brookdale Gardens
Gardens
subdivision
subdivision.
and part of Deerwood Drive.
Yeah, but it doesn't mention Brookdale subdivision. Brookdale Gardens is a separate subdivision from Brookdale.
Oh, that's right, it does, you're right.
Okay,
It
so it's
says,
Brookdale
yeah,
Gardens and-
That's right.
Back of,
Yeah.
that's right, yeah.
the back of the
Yeah.
other.
Gardens was another development down on the kind of the northeastern corner of Brookdale subdivision.
And it's down the Camera Drive extension, basically.
It's the Camera Drive extension, and then there's Brookdale Drive, which is part of that.
Yeah.
And there's also Taylor Drive, there's that new
Beaver,
subdivision in
something
there.
else, and,
I think they should just list every street that's in the ward.
Well, even, I mean, if you get technical, it says Ward 2 is Central Hanwell.
It
I don't
doesn't,
know
it
where
doesn't,
Central
yeah, it
Hanwell.
doesn't, I don't think it mentions Starlight in that.
The only thing it
But
does
it's
now
really
is says
subdivision.
along Route 640, including Starlight. But technically, Ward 2 doesn't have anything on the 640, it's the
That's right.
subdivisions.
Yeah. Along
On
the
the
six,
side.
both sides of the 640
Yeah.
is Ward 3.
It's like
Yes, Ward 3.
Somerset, Pinecrest.
Okay.
I think we can work,
Can you
I think we
guys-
can work on those descriptions.
Holy moly, I've sent this out a dozen times. Can you guys make up what you want
Yeah.
and I will send it out to them?
Okay,
We can do
Okay.
that.
we can do that.
Also on page 33,
Why did they need to describe the wards?
Yeah, I
Can't
don't
they just say
understand that
Ward
either.
1, Ward 2, like why did
Yeah.
they need a
a
description?
description of it.
Just,
Yeah,
I would just crap all that
Could they
stuff out.
refer to
It's just
the
Hanwell.
entity
It's-
map
yeah.
maybe
And it might
instead,
change,
or-
so like, you know,
That's
they've
true.
already changed the ward boundaries on it since you've incorporated it.
Yeah.
And I don't mean just 5 and 6, I mean wards 1 and 4 changed at some
Oh,
point in
did they?
history, yeah. So
Yeah,
like,
they joined it.
it doesn't make sense
Well,
to,
not much.
not much, but it did change, it was around Deerwood. The,
Yeah,
But I would leave them, and then people can refer to an actual ward
Yeah.
map if they're interested.
okay.
Well, they do have the ward maps, like,
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Further
Yeah,
down.
Just
Yeah.
take that
So
out.
just
which
take
makes
all
it
the
more
Take it all out.
Take the
Take it
description
out,
right in,
yeah.
Because
Okay,
nobody's gonna sit there and figure that.
okay, that was easy.
What page did you say?
Sorry, on page 33, the fire department is actually in Ward 1.
Actually, is it Ward 1 or Ward 4?
the fire department?
Fire
The
department's.
fire station's Ward 3,
No,
No.
the new one?
No, it'd be Ward
the
2.
one
It's
in
on-
Hamlin.
No, it's
Ward
not.
3.
I don't have anything
No,
on the
there's nothing, she has
640.
nothing on the 640.
Oh.
I thought it came out to the 640 and then
No. The 640, both sides of the 640 are
Ward
in
3.
Ward 3 until you get out to the church, and then it's all Ward 4.
Okay.
Okay, so it's
Ward
Ward
2 is
3
Ward 3.
instead of, okay, make that change.
I thought because it was on
Good,
that side.
okay.
I can't
I know,
find
I-
page 33.
That's all,
Moved on.
that's all
Trust us.
sticky notes I had. Counselor Heisler, you were talking about a table, I thought you said table 61, but I couldn't find.
Yes,
the table.
but I figured it out, I'm good.
Okay.
I know what, I knew what, I think I figured out what they were trying to do.
Okay, so if there's any more changes, kindly get this back because I'd like to get this in place. All right, oh,
Okay, item 8, policy 2026-05, cybersecurity instant response plan. Did everybody have a gander at that?
Yep.
Yep,
no, we're at laptops.
Well,
No,
that's
no,
off- that's off
that's
the-
operational.
It's operational.
No, well, one is, but the other motion isn't. No. Okay, so council, I have given you a staff report about people that are elected keeping their computers. I discussed this with our auditor today. There's no book value left on them.
We removed that from the agenda.
I know, but then I need a second motion because I need to purchase new computers.
Well, then we can just leave that part out, just motion to.
Gotcha.
That'll have to
Yeah.
be done in, well, we pulled it already out of the agenda.
Yeah.
We took it off the
Yeah, It would
agenda.
have to be in our next meeting. When our next meeting is in April, and it's before.
No, okay, I can't. So council, I am going to order these. They've got to be ordered by March 31st before the 14% increase.
Yeah, just put it in your
It's operational.
treasurer's report for next,
Do
to
it.
be accepted, yeah. Operational again, right?
Mhm.
It's one of those motions that, above the $5,000 budget, and
That's
we
right.
approve it.
Yeah.
Seems easy.
Be there.
Okay, moving on to item 8. If everybody's good with the cybersecurity incident response plan, I need a motion.
Yep, I, Councilor McKenzie, move to adopt policy 2026-05, cybersecurity incident response plan.
Seconder,
By Councillor Crowe, second.
questions, comments?
Looks pretty good, looks good over.
All right,
Looks good.
good. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Contrary minded? Contrary minded, motion carried. Thank you, council. Motion to adjourn, please.
I, Councilor Fox, move to adjourn.
Meeting adjourned at 7:25.